Have you ever felt stuck in where you are right now in your circumstances, feeling like you're struggling with money, you're struggling with your life, you've lost that sense of abundance that you truly desire? Well, today's going to be a treat. I'm going to be taking you through how to step into an abundant identity. And in fact, it is 3 strategies that I have personally used over the last, 5 to 6 years to really shift my income opportunity and abundance in my life, going from a couple $100,000 a year to multi-million dollars a year earning capacity. And I think it's going to impact you. And so I trust you're going to find it valuable. Let's get into making your mindset and your life more abundant.
Hey, it's Colin, and you are listening to the Expert Edge podcast. I was a professional speaker for over a decade, and now I focus on helping coaches, speakers, and course creators to speak and sell on virtual and live stages. The Expert Edge podcast is weekly content focused on helping you build your expert business. We cover marketing, storytelling, sales, communication skills, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode.
So I'm going to share with you 3 big things that I've done over the last 5 years to go from making a couple $100,000 to making a couple of $1 million per year in our expert business. And I will say, what I'm about to share with you is real stories, real experiences that have shaped who I am today. And I trust and I hope that they will translate into your world so that you can continue to grow and go to the next level. So here's the first thing. The challenge is, in terms of creating an abundant life, an abundant mindset, an abundant state, is first of all, is you feel like the experiences in your life are the facts of your life, or in other words, are the limits of your life. For example, you might look in your bank account and see that you have $352. And in your mind, you think, oh, that's just a fact. Like, I have $352. Or you might look around your room, your life, and be like, oh, I have a crappy apartment. I have a crappy place. I want you to know that what you see and what you notice in your life doesn't have to be your reality for the rest of your life. And in fact, one of the first strategies to realize is that you have to acknowledge your current capacity to hold abundance, and call that wealth, money, experiences, opportunities, whatever it is, right? You have to first acknowledge, this is number one. You have to face the truth of what you can actually create. I distinctly remember I had just come out of a F45 session. I know they have F45 throughout America, but I'm pretty sure it started in Australia. And I remember coming out of an F45 session and just really thinking about the fact that I felt like, as a coach, I was worth more than what I was earning. I remember thinking, I'm easily worth $200,000, $300,000 as a coach in my coaching business. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't understand why I'm not making that. And this is at the time when I was making about $80,000 in my coaching business. I think I had one assistant at the time, and I was just really stuck in terms of just how I thought about life and my business. But to be honest, I thought that I was showing up as someone who was making a couple of $100,000. The thing I had to realize was the fact that I wasn't showing up as that person. I wasn't showing up, believing, energetically delivering at a level that I know is possible now. But all I knew was all I knew up to that point. But I'd kind of tricked myself in the sense of thinking that I was doing a better job than I was. And so the first thing that I found really powerful, and Dan Sullivan says this, he says, all progress starts by telling the truth. And so for me, it started with just telling the truth. And I was like, you know what? I'm an $80,000 coach, and I'm not a $200,000 coach. I'm not $1 million coach. Like, how I'm showing up in my business and my life right now is an $80,000 coach. And as soon as I realized that, I acknowledged where I was at right now, but it also then allowed me to imagine another level. And like I said, if you look in your bank account and there isn't much money, you look around your apartment and it isn't great. Acknowledging that doesn't mean you're surrendering to it or you're staying there. But it does mean that you're facing the truth of how you're showing up in your life. And I truly believe that you can't create or recreate an abundant identity and step into that and experience a greater level of abundance. Now, the flip side of this idea of facing the truth, understanding what your actual capacity really is, the flip side of it is that you're going to keep that capacity wherever you go. In fact, I remember when we first moved from Australia to America, I had a really big fear that, because at the time when we moved, my business had started to get into some momentum. We were doing about $350,000 a year, and it was very comfortable. Like I was like living a great life, right? On that revenue was highly profitable, running at a very high profit margin. And I was like, oh, cool, we're going well. And then I thought about moving to America. When we first moved there, I had no clients. Like I didn't really have an online course business at that time. I had very few, like I was doing in-person coaching, in-person speaking. I remember when I first moved to the US, I was looking for in-person speaking events. Like that was the thing I was looking for, in-person workshops. I thought I was going to be a corporate trainer in corporate America. And I remember when I got there and having a conversation with my wife, and she's amazing, Sarah. And if you haven't listened to the episode with her and I, do yourself a treat. Go and have a listen to that. I had her on the episode about 5 episodes ago. We talked about the lessons from 2024. Amazing feedback from that, by the way. And if we could link it in the show notes, that'd be great. So my wife says to me, she's like, Colin, you already know how to make $30,000 a month. You're going to make that here. And no word of a lie, within about 3 months, I was making $30,000 a month. Because I want you to know this, is that your capacity to generate revenue, your capacity to make money stays with you. So if you move to another country, if you move to another space, sure, there's going to be a learning curve, but your capacity to generate money stays with you. I just did some recent coaching with a client, and she's a bit of a serial entrepreneur. She's launched several very successful brands and physical product brands. And she came to me and she was like, Colin, I want to launch a coaching business. And we started working together. Within about 30, 40 days, she'd launched something, generated about $30,000 of revenue in a online coaching capacity and business. She didn't have a huge audience. She didn't have a huge following, but she just knew how to show up. She knew how to generate revenue right from the start. So she went from basically zero to $30,000 within about 30 days, right? It's because of her capacity. And so the reason why I bring this up is you have to first acknowledge where your capacity is at. You have to acknowledge, okay, at the moment, I am showing up as someone who's making $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $50,000 a month, $100,000, whatever it is. You have to acknowledge the level of how you're showing up as a business owner, right? As a business owner, you have to acknowledge that level of how you're showing up and the capacity for that. So that's really cool. So first of all, we have to acknowledge our capacity, but realize you take your capacity with you, which is an interesting concept. The second big idea is you have to see what's possible. And one of the best ways of doing that is being a part of programs where there are people in the room who are doing better than you. I've been a part of a program for about 2.5 years. And even though I've seen some success in our life, I walk into this room and honestly, I feel like I'm a beginner. I feel like I'm just starting out. I remember walking over to one of my really, really dear friends. His name's Bob. And we walk over to Bob and he goes, "Hey, how are you, Colin?" We're having a conversation. And I said, "What have you been up to, Bob? What did you do this week?" And he's like, "Oh, Colin, I bought a bank." He goes, "Oh, I bought a bank this week." I'm like, you what? And he goes, "Oh yeah, I've been wanting to buy a bank for a long time. So we bought a bank." He goes, "I just finished my 10-bedroom ski in, ski out chalet in Breckenridge." And he's like, "What are you doing on this weekend? Do you want to come up and have a ski?" And I'm like, wait, let's just roll it back a little bit. You bought a bank and finished a 10-room chalet ski out in Breckenridge. And it's like, yeah, that's what I did this week. And for me, like it just, first of all, it made me laugh because of how cool that was. But it also blew me away of like, this is the level that Bob, the legend, is thinking at, right? And I'll be honest, I'm not thinking at that level. I haven't got a bank in my sights to buy right now, right? So I want you to realize that one of the best ways to see what's possible is to get around people who are thinking and acting bigger than you. This is the reason why I invest in myself, and my wife and I, we're always a part of programs where people are thinking and acting on a bigger level than even I am. I like to get myself in rooms. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes people enter some of our programs and they'll give me feedback or give us feedback and say, Colin, I feel like I'm so behind. I feel like I'm not ahead. Like some of the conversations that you're having with the other clients, like they're so ahead, they're so advanced, they're already established. And I'm like, can't you see this is exactly where you need to be? Like you need to be in this room, because if you were in a room where you felt like you're crushing it already, sure, it might be good for your ego, but you're not going to go anywhere. Like you're going to stay exactly where you are right now. And so rather than, shooting on yourself and going, I should be doing more, I should be doing that, just turn up your curiosity muscle, turn up your fascination and be like, this is fascinating. One of the things that I do in Self from Stage Elite is I bring my friends in who are doing $1 million or more per year in their coaching business, and I lift the hood on their business. And so I'll bring different people in every month or so. I call them $1 million guest sessions. So I bring them in, we lift the hood on their Ferrari essentially, and we look under the hood and we say, how does your business run? What's your payroll like? How much ad spend are you doing? What are your costs like? What's the biggest challenge you've been through? Tell me about a failed launch. Tell me about a successful launch. What did it take for you to go from 50,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to a million to multi-million? Like we actually unpack it. It's one of my favorite things to do. But secondly, it exposes the members to a different way of thinking, to a bigger way of thinking. I want them to see the Ferrari. So at least they know what it looks like. In fact, just this morning, the day of recording this podcast, so we are in a promotion at the moment. We'll probably have about 7,000 or 8,000 people signed up for a training series. And in my elite program, I literally show them in the back end of, okay, every single day, this is how many leads we're getting. This is how much we're spending. This is how many people are joining VIP. This is how many, like I show them under the hood of the Ferrari. And I do that because I want them to see how a multi-million dollar business runs. Because if they don't see it, they're not going to be able to create it. Like you're going to be walking around in the dark. Does that make sense? And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is you have to see what's possible beyond your current circumstances. And the best way to do that is to be a part of a program, whether it's my program, whether it's someone else's program. Like it doesn't bother me. You have to make your decision for what's right for you. But I just want to encourage you to be in rooms where people are thinking bigger, acting bigger, and showing up in a bigger way. Does that make sense? So the second big thing is to see what's possible. I'll never forget, I was sitting in a room, and it was in New York, actually. We were sitting on a skyscraper in New York. There was a workshop room at the top of the building in New York. It was such a cool experience. And I remember looking around, there was about 20 people in the room, and it was a coaching program that I was involved in. I was a member of. And there was about 3 or 4 people in that room who were really making waves in the industry. Like, if I said their names, you would know who they are, kind of thing. And I remember sitting in that room and thinking, I'm nowhere near their level in terms of how I'm showing up, or even just the business. Like they were about, 6 or 7 times beyond me at the time, beyond me in terms of where I was doing. This was when we first moved to the US. And I remember looking around and thinking, I've got really good skills. I know I'm good at what I do, but I can see that I'm not a whale in my industry. I'm not a whale in my niche. And I remember I made a decision and I said, I want to be a freaking whale, not physically, but from a niche perspective, I want to show up in my marketplace as a whale. Like I want to be known for what I do. Now, can I share something kind of funny? I went to ChatGPT the other day and I asked, who is a really good Self from Stage coach that I could learn from? And guess who came up as number one in ChatGPT? Yours truly. Now, there was about 4 other people. You're welcome to check them out as well. But, I may or may not have, I did, come up as number one. I'd love to know if I came up as number one on your ChatGPT as well. Maybe it's just my ChatGPT. I don't know, but it was good for my ego, right? And so I searched it up. Have you done that, by the way? Go to ChatGPT and ask, who's a really good coach to learn from in this area, and see if your name comes up. My name would not have come up 5 years ago. It wouldn't have shown up in ChatGPT if I asked that. It would have been everyone else's name. But my name showed up as number one on the list. Now, the lesson here is that you have to see what's possible, right? And so I'm looking around in this room and I noticed there's about 3 or 4 people who are crushing it, whales in the industry. And I decided I'm going to be a freaking whale. I'm going to show up as a whale. I'm going to be a leader. In fact, I want to be a leader of these people in this room, like the whales in this room. I want to bring my expertise and consult to them, not on their whole business. Like, I'm not saying that I know more about other things, but in terms of what I do, I'm really good at what I do. And I was like, I want to consult to them. I think it was 3 or 4 months later, I got the chance to work with Amy Porterfield, like the queen of digital courses. I got the chance to work with her on a live event that she had coming up. It was her first live event that she was selling from stage. And we worked on an offer and she did $450,000 in 2 days selling a new program that she launched at her live event. And she was just pumped about it, right? She sent me a video about it, all that sort of good testimonial stuff. But I will say that because if I hadn't decided that I was going to be a leader in my area of market leaders, because obviously, someone like Amy, I could learn a billion things from her. She's phenomenal. But I just know that in my niche, in my space, I know what I'm talking about. And so you have to decide that. It's not about you're better than anyone. It's not about you're ahead of anyone. It's just simply owning the power that you have, your skill set, and saying, I'm going to be a leader in my space, in my niche. Does that make sense? So this idea of seeing what's possible is the second big idea. And the third one is you need to own your new identity. You've got to declare it. You've got to own it. For me, I love to write it down. So I love to physically write out, this is who I am. So I'm a leader of market leaders. I'm a whale in my industry. I am the number one sell from stage coach in the world. And you start writing this out. I'm the type of person who shows up and serves way beyond anyone else. Do you know my first confession I ever made was I am an intelligent, enthusiastic, proactive individual. It's such a bit of a mouthful, that one. But that was my first real declaration of who I wanted to be and could be. And so you have to act as if and declare that new identity. So to declare it, one of the best ways to do is to act as if you are that person for a short period of time. So these are like identity sprints, new identity sprints. So if you just decide, I'm going to be for the next 10 days, I'm going to be the number one person in my niche, and that's how I'm going to show up. You just decide it. By the way, no one's ever going to come and knight you as being worthy, credible, good enough to be a leader in your niche. No one's ever going to come and do that. Like, I haven't been knighted other than ChatGPT saying I was number one on the list. But ChatGPT is the first person who's kind of knighted me, right? But this is the thing, guys. I had to decide that before ChatGPT said that I was number one. That's my ChatGPT. Who knows what yours is going to show up as? But you get it, right? This idea of I had to decide it before it showed up in the world. And so stop looking for evidence that you are that already, because you don't have enough evidence to support that. And that's okay. In fact, that is the journey that you are about to go on. So stop looking for evidence. You don't need evidence. All you need to do is show up as that person. So let's do a quick review. Number one, acknowledge your current capacity. Just face the truth, acknowledge it. There's no shame. It's just, let's see where it's at right now. Number two, see what's possible. The best way to do that, get around people who are thinking bigger, acting bigger, showing up bigger than you. That's number two. Number three, declare your new identity and own it. Act as if you are that person right now. These are 3 things that I would encourage you to do to really go to that next level. Now, I will say, if you are a coach and a course creator, you've already got an offer. You've already been selling it, a little bit. You've got a little bit of momentum. Maybe you're doing $5,000, $10,000 a month, at least $5,000, around that. and you would love to learn how to scale that up and actually build a scalable business, go to my Instagram, it's just at Colin Boyd. Send me the DM with the word elite. And I'd love to have a conversation with you about whether this would be a good fit for you or not. If it isn't, there are some other options that we have as well. But if you're someone who's really committed, really serious about growing your coaching, your course creation business, and you're wanting to pick up the momentum. Now, I will say, in our elite program, we actually have a new accelerator experience where in 10 weeks we build out your presentation, which is really cool. And so we've got a coach, our head coach, she actually takes people through building it out. So even if you haven't been presenting for long or never done a presentation, that's totally fine because we hold your hand through it. I'm excited. I'm excited about that because I feel like we've been seeing some great results with people and just continually trying to serve the audience, serve our clients even better. So if you're curious about that and you'd love to at least just have a conversation about whether or not it's a right fit, just DM me the word elite in Instagram and I'd love to have a conversation. It will actually be me having a conversation with you. So I'd love to help you and serve you. I trust this has been helpful. Stepping into your abundant identity, stepping into that next level. Let's do that in 2025. Let's step into that new identity and create the life that you've always desired. We'll see you soon on the Expert Edge.